Hello again, everybody. It's Takedown. Scott Casper with you. We continue our coverage of the sport. Brian Antonelli, the former interim head coach at the Naval Academy, is returning his prep alma mater. That's Blair Academy. He joins us now. Brian, how special is this opportunity to return home to New Jersey?
It's really special, Scott, and to get back to Blairstown, back to Blair Academy for me, for my family. It's just a great opportunity for us.
Let's talk a bit about it. The naval opportunity was there, but Bruce Burnett announced his retirement in the fall of 2013, and then you took it over until, well, just weeks ago. Was it a tough decision between the two programs? I mean, let's face it, you've made a home at Annapolis.
Yes, it was. It was tough in that we have grown some roots here. Navy's a great program. The type of young men that we get here, it's a special place, no doubt. I went to school here, but opportunity came up to go to Blair Academy, and gosh, what a great place that is, also. Change is good sometimes, and this time it sure is. And we're excited about going up north and getting back to Blair Academy.
Well, before we talk about Blair, I've got a burning question, and that's this. What's the biggest difference between that of being an assistant coach on the staff at Annapolis and being the head coach?
Yeah, it was a lot different than I thought it was going to be. And really, Coach Burnett, I think he prepared me really well for this year, and that we just had, and it was exciting. But big differences. When you're that head coach, everything is a reflection on you and your program, from results to how the kids act away from the mat, on the mat, in the classroom. Everything, every detail is ultimately my responsibility. And honestly, Scott, it's something that I really enjoyed this year. And once I got a taste of it, I know that's what I want to do. And being an assistant, I think a lot of times you get to do a lot more of the fun stuff, like all the wrestling, and gosh, you get really close to your athletes. And you do also as a head coach, but sometimes you just have to make those tougher calls as a head guy. Which I enjoy. It's a challenge, and it's a learning experience also.
Let's talk a little bit about Blair now. Blair, of course, one of the nation's top prep wrestling programs. 32 straight prep national titles in a row from 1980 up until March, when it finished second behind Pennsylvania's Wyoming Seminary. You take over from Solomon Fleckman. He took over from Jeff Buxton. Largely regarded as one of the greatest coaches in the history of the prep programs in this country. You're taking over a storied program, but having been there as part of it, I got to believe there's some joy in doing so.
Oh yeah, it's a huge joy in it, and holy cow, what a legacy there is, at Blair Academy, and the things that the program has accomplished, the things that the school has accomplished. But gosh, I'm just gonna stay focused on the guys. They all have goals, and my job is just to ensure that they reach their goals. And that's what's unique about Blair Academy. Some of those young men, they have Olympic goals right now, and then others, they're gonna have goals of cracking the lineup, or maybe it's the first time they put on wrestling shoes. So there's a pretty big disparity in goals, and but my job as a high school coach is to ensure that they max out their potential and reach their goals.
Now, it's a lot of hard work and a lot of
Yeah.
hours for a high school coach. A lot of them go unthanked, by the way. And let me take this moment just to thank all the high school coaches in the country on our behalf. And you're entering those ranks to the number one prep program in the country, as ranked by IntermatWrestle.com. Blair in New Jersey is known for its hard work, its dedication to fine points of the sport. Take a look at Ed Ruth. He was Penn State's three-time national champ. He was a Blair guy. Steve Mocco. I can't even say enough good things about Steve when he came out of Blair. I mean, it was all hands on deck. This was a guy everybody looked at as, he's a guaranteed NCAA champ, and by God, he was. Talk to us about the history of all those guys, yourself included, that came out of Blair.
Well, it's amazing, and it was amazing how many people have already reached out and just wished us luck and and continuing the legacy. I can tell you, none of the alumni, that they want to see the program to continue where it's been and to find success in a lot of different ways. On the wrestling mat and what these young men go on to do once they're done wrestling in Blairstown. So it's but there's a lot of support, from that alumni group. There's an expectation that the alumni have and that the school has, and I'll be honest with you, the school is 100% behind the program and making sure we continue wrestling the schedule that we do and competing against good teams because our guys want to compete against the best guys that are out there. So we'll continue to do that with the school's help, and that's what was you asked about the decision in going to Blairstown but when you see the commitment that the entire school has, it made the decision a heck of a lot easier. That's for sure.
Charles Danoff, I was remiss in mentioning him as the interim, as Jeff Buxton left. Jeff Buxton left rather abruptly, and Fleckman even talked about, his leaving abruptly. It was a tough transition for everybody, and part of his hiring, what Solomon had said was part of his hiring was to have him assist in finding a quality replacement. And by golly, given the opportunity, they hired Brian Antonelli. I'd say that's pretty high praise indeed.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, I am just honored by the whole thing, and and honestly, since I've gotten on campus, I keep talking about how, it is going to be about the guys, reaching their goals, and that's pretty tough for the seniors, right? The young men going into their senior year. That's 4 coaches in 4 years. So continuity is pretty important. But we just stay focused on this year and those guys wrestling as hard as they can all the time. These guys they'll finish their Blair career on top.
Chris Fortunato is the head of the school at Blair, and or I should say head of school. And he's very complimentary, not only what Coach Fleckman was able to get done, but also to your hire. He went on to say that your background in supporting top athletes at the collegiate level in the recruiting process and your leadership and stewardship of the sport will allow you to further develop student athletes to be their best on and off the mat. How important is that to you to be good student athletes with an emphasis on student?
Yeah, that's Scott, that's just so important to these guys. I mean, a lot of them, they're going to have long careers in wrestling, and I'm talking about careers on the mat beyond the NCAA season. I mean, there's some of them that's their goals and that's what they want to do. So, but at some point, their wrestling shoes are going to get put on a shelf, and they want to be set up for success in life beyond that. They want to, attending a good school. What's the definition of a good school? Well, it's a school that's gonna where they can go and max out their potential also. I mean, there's different ranges of programs, and it's finding the right fit for a young man or where they want to go to school and where they can get best set up for life. So yeah, a student athlete, it's important. You got to have, and it's sometimes a little bit tougher to explain to these guys that, there is stuff beyond wrestling because they've been wrestling their whole life. I mean, since first grade, since kindergarten, and gosh, it is important. There's no doubt. It's a huge part of their life. Their families have made big sacrifices in getting them to where they want to be. So it's sometimes hard to look beyond the wrestling part. But there is another part to this whole deal. There's a big part in doing what they need to do in the classroom and then beyond college. It's just it's a big part of life.
We talk about wrestlers and families making sacrifices, but in the end, isn't that what we do? We make a sacrifice to get a result, a positive result, we hope. And through wrestling, don't we find that out sometimes the hard way?
Exactly. No doubt. You're 100% right.
Talk to us about the McDonough School.
McDonough School is, I went to McDonough for 2 years, my junior and senior year, and it was, it's a great place. My dad was the athletic director there, and, I'm still connected with the program and Pete Welsh, in our proximity down here. I see Pete quite a lot, and that school also is growing. I mean, it's growing in its facilities, and gosh, the wrestling program's doing pretty darn well. So, yeah, McDonough's a special place also.
You went on to a state title, didn't you? I mean, let's go back and look at your history and see how
Yes.
it all relates. Was it a 160-pound title,
Yes.
which is quite heavy indeed for a title?
Yeah.
That's the joke. But then you went on to spend a year at Blair. So for
Correct.
some kids don't have that advantage. How big was that advantage to you?
It was great. So my dad was the athletic director at McDonough. My mom was a math teacher. So, gosh, I just grew up, obviously really close to my parents, and just moving away and going to Blair Academy, and the wrestling under Coach Buxton was exactly what I needed at the time. I mean, the teams were a little bit different at Blair when I was there in '92 and '93. We actually had like a PG team that wrestled like a JV college schedule. So, we would get about 25, 30 college matches. So for me, that's exactly what I needed on the wrestling mat. But then also, moved away from home, lived in Blairstown, and figured out how to do laundry and actually operate a checkbook. Stuff that you need to figure out. So for me, at that point, Blair Academy was exactly what I needed, and I think I grew up quite a bit in that year, and just glad I had the opportunity to do it.
I'm still trying to figure out the on-off switch on the checkbook.
On the check button.
The on-off switch. Figured out how to operate the checkbook.
Oh,
Anyway,
yeah.
yeah, the off
Yeah.
switch is the important part there.
Yeah.
U.S. Naval Academy, where you earned letters as a wrestler in '96. I didn't ever tell you all the jokes were going to be funny.
Yeah.
Anyway, you earned the letter or letters in wrestling as '96 and '97. And we talked a little bit about Bruce Burnett. We talked a little bit about him as being a good leader. What kind of an inspiration was he to you?
Bruce, gosh, I don't know where to start. And a lot of the stuff that I've learned from Coach Burnett is beyond the wrestling stuff, and I'm talking beyond the technique. It's just the way he deals with athletes, and even beyond athletes, just the way he deals with people, and the positive influence he has. It's amazing to see some of these alumni events where these guys come back, and they go on to do amazing things from the academy, and they come back and talk to Bruce Burnett. It's cool to watch, and Coach has been a great leader for me, and I've learned an unbelievable amount from him.
So complimentary is he of you, and you of he, obviously. I would tell you this: that Blair is very lucky indeed to be getting the recipient of the H. McCoy Memorial Award. I understand it's given to the Midi who displays the highest degree of athletic leadership and competitive spirit. But perhaps looking ahead to today, didn't they pick the right guy? I think they did. Graduating from the Navy Academy in '97, you were commissioned as second lieutenant in the Marine Corps. How much time did you actually spend in the Corps?
So I was 8 years in the Marine Corps. So it was about 5 years in the fleet, and then, about 4 years in the fleet, and then I came back and was actually stationed at the Naval Academy while I was still on active duty, where it was like an officer rep for the wrestling team, and that's where I got to know Coach Burnett. I didn't know him before then, so I got stationed back at the academy in about 2002. Spent 3 years with him there, and then I got out from there.
Well, and I tell you what, the Marine Corps is lucky to have you, and 238 years of being the very tip of our nation's defense. The spear of our nation's defense. Man, I tell you what, we couldn't do it without them. The Marine Corps, what a solid group of guys. Love them. Listen, I don't want to drag this on too much, but Blair Academy, awful lucky to have you. I know this is a great opportunity as you see it. I think most of us do. It doesn't come along very often. You're, I think, the fourth over the last 5 years, and obviously there's a transition period, but I believe, according to Jim Stone, the director of athletics, according to the head of the school, as I mentioned, Chris Fortunato, they're believing that they have the right guy for a long term. Are you ready to settle down and get to it?
I am. I'm ready to settle down, and gosh, it just feels like I've been talking about it for 3 weeks, and I'm just ready to get on campus and get started. I'm excited, and I'm excited for the support that we have there, and I'm ready to go, ready to work.
Brian, it's always good to talk to you. Thanks for your leadership at the academy, and thanks for your service as a Marine. But I'm looking forward to the generations of young men that you're going to be producing through Blair. It's going to be fun to watch.
Well, thank you, Scott. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
Appreciate the time today. It's Brian Antonelli, the new head coach of the Blair Wrestling Academy and the Blair Academy, indeed, one of the great programs in our country's history when it comes to the sport of wrestling and producing fine young men.